ranking F1 games handling since 2016. Since the launch of F1 22, a lot of complaints have been heard surrounding the game's handling and physics model. With all the discourse, I felt it time to take a stroll down memory lane and see if this is truly the worst handling experience we've received in recent memory. I'll be ranking all the game's handling from F1 2016 to present, offering a short list of pros and cons for each. Now some of you may be wondering why I haven't included F1 2015, given that this was when the current engine was introduced. Unfortunately, I'm the proud owner of a PS5 digital, and that seems to be the only F1 game I had purchased physically. So when going to the PlayStation Store to see if I could purchase the older game again, I was met with this. The game has been delisted from the store, hence we're starting from 2016. Before we get into it, I will note that I stuck to the pre-made balance setup for this video, as I have felt using custom setups would have had an adverse effect on my judgment. For the most part, I've also stuck to driving in Bahrain, since this circuit offers a variety of high to low speed corners and has been seen as the least changed track throughout the games. I'm not an engineer or a pro esports driver, this is purely for fun and intrigue. Now let's get into it. Number 7. F1 22. Yes, it should come as no surprise that having replayed all the recent games, F1 22 ranked as the worst of the lot by a country mile. And I'm certain I'm not the only one who shares this view. As far as pros go, I guess the vibration feedback is pretty good, but that's probably more to do with the improved haptics of the PS5 controller. From what I've heard, force feedback on the wheel is pretty dim. And then there's the cons. Poor traction in lower gears, severe understeer, unpredictable over the curbs, painful wet weather physics, and my god, the manual race starts. This game really loves to punish those who race without traction control. Number 6. F1 2018. Next up was F1 2018. This was just fairly awkward. It didn't necessarily feel bad, but it wasn't entirely great either. Traction out of the corners in these 2018 cars was insane. I was immediately down on the throttle on corner exit and didn't even feel the slightest bit of wheel spin, which was incredibly jarring having just played F1 2022. The pros: strong traction, well balanced. As far as understeer or oversteer, the car felt bang on in the middle. The cons: weak vibration feedback, stiff through the corners. Number 5. F1 2016. This game was so much fun to go back to. I've not played it in years, and I'd played it 291 hours at the time of its release. The handling felt light and nimble due to the size of the cars, of course. If you were to play the most recent games and gave the cars the max chassis upgrades, this is what it feels like to play F1 2016. Light inputs and the car would breeze straight into the corner. I loved it. So the pros? As I said, light and nimble. Also, good vibration feedback. Cons? Weirdly enough, I'd say the only con I'd have is that it was too easy. You turn in and the car does exactly what you want. Very minimal challenge, which made it feel far too arcadey. Now I'm not saying I want full-on F1 sims, but just a bit more of a challenge wouldn't be such a bad thing in this case. If you guys have been enjoying this video thus far, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel, and don't be afraid to leave a comment. I love hearing your guys' feedback and opinions. Now back to the video. Number 4. F1 2017. Remember what I said about 2016? Yeah, this game was the opposite. The cars felt heavy. I think because of the major reg change that occurred, everyone at the time was just constantly talking about how heavy the new cars had become. And Codemasters took this information and exaggerated it. The traction was incredible. You always had a feel of what the car was going to do. However, through corners and under braking, the cars just felt slow. It almost felt like the brakes were numbed in order to make the cars feel weightier. The pros: great traction, great vibration feedback. The cons: too heavy, weaker on the brakes. Number 3. F1 2021. Now on release, I will admit, I hated the handling of this game. It just felt far too different from the predecessor at that time, and I was not a fan. Now playing it along with the other games, I realised it's just a weird mix of F1 22 and 2017. The cars just felt super heavy and loaded with understeer, but the traction was actually really good and consistent. The vibration feedback was also quite incredible, to be honest. You knew exactly how the car was going to behave through corners and over curbs. The pros: consistent good traction, excellent vibration feedback. The cons: mega understeer, very heavy through the corners. Number 2, F1 2019. At this point, and probably from all my previous videos, you can see which is my number 1 pick. However, F1 2019's handling was very good indeed. It was just a few steps away from perfection, like the game I'm going to mention after this. I guess its main con would be that it did feel slightly stiff, but this may have been a hangover from the previous 2018 handling model. Now without further ado, number 1, F1 2020. I absolutely love this game, and its handling is the closest thing to perfection in my opinion. I got 100% of the achievements and put 677 hours into this game, which is the most hours I've put into any F1 game, as well as the most hours I've put into any game since owning a PlayStation. The handling is near perfect. The traction allows you to push the car to its very limit, and if you push too far, you will end up losing the rear end. However, because the feedback is so good, you have about a 60% chance of catching the spin before mounting a barrier. Whether you prefer more understeer or more oversteer, the near perfect balance of these cars allows you to just set them up exactly the way that greatly suits your driving style, which allows for more consistency. The only con I'd give is that maybe the physics were a bit far too forgiving. Being able to cut through the sausage curb at Monza was a little bit iffy. Aside from that, this is top tier F1 handling in the games to date. If you guys agree with this list, or have a list of your own, please share it down below in the comments, and I hope you all have a glorious day. Thank you very much for watching.